We get into another conversation now. 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. And we said, when do the 16 days begin?
On the 25th of November until Human Rights Day, which is the 10th of December.
10th of December. That is this Sunday.
Yes, it is.
Allah. So this will be the end of the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence.
Yeah.
Now, to have the conversation with us in the studio, we're joined by two ladies. CT has stepped out. You know what CT does? CT is now he has gone with Dan Sanomari. I don't know to do what, to start paying him pesa ya kufungua file.
Secure the future.
Yes. Mary Njoki is a GROOTS Kenya Nairobi coordinator and a GBV responder. She's our guest in the studio, alongside Pacifica Ongecha, who's also GROOTS Kenya Kiambu coordinator and GBV responder. Good morning, ladies.
Good morning.
Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation.
Thank you.
We'll be talking about gender-based violence and what GROOTS Kenya does and what it means that when we say that you are GBV responders. Tell us about GROOTS Kenya, what you do. Unafanya kazi katika vitongoji vya Nairobi.
Yes.
Mitaa gani na gani na gani?
Vitongoji za Nairobi niko na mtaa unaitwa Mathare. Niko na vijiji ni mingi. Sijui nichukue zote. Niko na Mathare, niko na Mathare North, niko na Muradi, kijiji naitwa Muradi, niko na Mabatini, niko na Area 4, niko na Matopeni, niko na Damsite. Hizo zote na sifanyi peke yangu, tunafanya tukiwa mama wengi. Lakini mimi
unafanya kazi gani haswa?
Kazi yangu ni GVV. Tunaangalia kudhulumiwa kwa wamama, watoto na hata wengine wakiwa wamedhulumiwa, pia sisi tunahusika.
Kivipi?
Yes. Tunahusika kwa kusaidia, labda mtu amechapwa. Amechapwa na hajui ataenda wapi. Sisi tuko pale tumuelekeze hospitali, tuko hapo tumuelekeze kwa polisi, ndio andikishe OB. Kama kuna watu wako hapo karibu wamsaidie, tumsaidie kwenda kwa polisi, andike OB, tufuatilie hizo kesi.
Tuseme mtu amechapwa.
Yes.
Tuchukue kama example. Mtu akichapwa atakujaje kwa Mary?
Mtu akichapwa atakujaje kwa Mary?
Atajuaje kuna Mary ambaye anaweza nipatie usaidizi?
Kuna watu wetu wako kwa community wa mama wale wengine. Sifanyi kazi peke yangu. Tuna wamama wengine na tuna mawasiliano ya simu. Kwa mfano kitu imefanyika Mabatini. Mary, kuna jambo limefanyika hapa, mama amechapwa na ako nje na ameumizwa. Jambo la kwanza, kama ni usiku, kuna ambulance zinatusaidia sana za MSF. Hizo ndio ninachukua jukumu ya kupiga haraka. Ndio isaidie ule mama au kolewe pale apelekwe kwa hospitali. Baada ya kutoka hospitali, ile hospitali ni nzuri sababu inatuandikia mpaka medical report. Na tunaenda nayo mpaka police station, near police station. Sana sana tukiwa upande wa Mabatini tunaendaga Pangani. Tukiwa upande wa Mathare tunaendaga Muthaiga police station. Tunaenda na maeneo ya polisi vile iko. Na tunasaidia huyo mama na tunaanza kufuatilia kesi vile ilivyo. Yes.
Pacifica.
Yes.
So broadly, what does GROOTS Kenya do?
GROOTS Kenya, can I briefly do an introduction of what GROOTS Kenya?
Yes.
So that the listeners can get to understand what GROOTS Kenya does.
Yes.
GROOTS Kenya is a national movement of grassroots women. So it brings together women who are organized themselves in community-based organizations, self-help groups. So we work together to work along the development agendas that are within our communities. And of course, it's important to mention that GROOTS Kenya started in 1995 after the Beijing meeting that happened in China. And GROOTS Kenya started after realizing that the voices of the grassroots women were not being heard. So it brought together the grassroots women, so that they can speak for the agenda they have for the grassroots. They can speak it for themselves. So we bring it together, the women, organize them so that they can air their views. The grassroots agencies can be heard and acted upon. So we organize these women, and they can speak for themselves. So what we normally do as GROOTS Kenya, we go out there and advocate for development agenda within our communities. That is how we work. We go into public participation. We air our views. We go into public barazas, chief barazas, and speak about the work, every development agenda within our communities. For instance, I come from Kiambu. Anytime there is anything within Kiambu, anytime there is a budget process, anytime there is CIDP, anytime there is any development agenda within my community, I will ensure I have organized the women in Kiambu, in the different sub-counties, so that they come out in big numbers, go and give their needs for their various regions within Kiambu. They speak about them and they're captured into the government systems. So basically, that is what we do. But as an organization, we have programs which we work within. Yeah.
Yes.
So we work along these programs, but we ensure that our voices are heard. Basically, that is how we work.
How are the women organized? Is it in small groups? Is it in chamas? Is it independent women organization that then affiliate with GROOTS Kenya?
I mentioned that we work with women that are in self-help groups and community-based organizations. So we organize them so that they get into groups, because it is easier to work with them when they're in self-help groups other than working with individuals. So in every region, they organize themselves in self-help groups or as community-based organization. Then they come into the ward level. You will realize there's a ward coordinator. Then they come into the sub-county. We have a sub-county coordinator. Then into the county, into the national level. So our agendas will be formulated from the grassroots level, then come up at the ward level into the sub-county, into the county, because the agendas that you have to go and you have to go and talk to them, talk at the county level. So you have to have organized yourself at the county level. But for you to get to the county, you have to have started at the village level, because then you will have informed what is happening at the county, will have been informed, but by what is at the villages within the specific county. Yes.
So looking at the work that GROOTS has done over years, I mean, of course, being involved in development, being involved in public participation, being involved in budgets, because obviously this fuels agenda. Looking at GBV, this is a support mechanism, right?
Yes.
How exactly is GROOTS then involved in making sure, like Mary has talked about, the support for women who have been abused, for obviously the rising cases that we've seen of sexual abuse amongst young girls and younger women and boys as well? How are those community groups then involved in this area?
Of course, as I mentioned, we have 5 working pillars. The 5th pillar is which talks about gender injustice. We have, as an organization, for this pillar to work well, we have recruited our women who are responders, women who are passionate, because for every program, we have champions of a specific program. So we have champions, including me and Mary, who are champions of gender-based violence. So what we did, our women who are champions of gender-based violence have been taken through training, capacity building, to understand the integrities of gender-based violence. How are you supposed to respond? What is the protocol? When you realize there is anything about GBV within your community, what would you do? What action are you supposed to take? And when you take this action, who are the people you're supposed to incorporate to ensure that you get justice? So once they're taken through this, they know that when I get a case within my community, when I respond, this is a case I can go and see the chief. This is a case I can first of all go and report to the police. This is a case that I first of all need to rush to the hospital, because this person is bleeding. We need to go and get some first aid. Arrest the bleeding, then we can go and now get an OB, then we can follow up the protocol of how we can get justice. So we have champions within the community who have been trained, and they respond. And they were trained because we realize they're passionate about GBV, because GROOTS does not pay the women champions. They are volunteers within the community. And for you to be a champion within GROOTS Kenya, they identify you because you already have something you're doing for your community. So they bring you in so that you become part and parcel of the movement. Yeah, so that is how we work. And once you're trained, you need now then to you collaborate with the other stakeholders within your community. You need to collaborate with the health people. You need to collaborate with the police. For instance, I am the GBV coordinator for GROOTS Kenya nationally, and of course within Kiambu County. So I have the contacts of all the police OCSs within Kiambu. I have the contact of the county commander, so that anytime we have a case that we need attention, I will call them. And if there is our responders within the sub-counties also have contacts of the the OCSs within their community. So they will always call for help. They have contacts of the health people. So we have that network so that in case we have any cases of GBV, we are collaborating well.
Okay.
Yes.
How have we seen, Mary, and you Swahili still, that's fine. How have we seen cases reducing over time in the areas where you're a champion, if we have, or have they been increasing cases of gender-based violence?
Nafikiri kutoka tuanze hii mambo yetu, hii mambo ya kuenda kuhamasisha watu habari ya GVV na community, kuwaelimisha habari ya hiyo habari ya GVV, nafikiri tunaenda tukipunguza sababu kila mtu anaelewa kupigana si vizuri, kufanyana dhuluma si vizuri, sababu kama kuna mmoja, kwa mfano tumechukua kesi moja iko kotini, na kama iko kotini, kwa ile community wanaogopa kesi. Yani kila mtu anasema sasa tukianza hii mambo ya kupigana, tunaanza process, tunaharibu kazi zetu za kawaida za kila maana kila mara tunakuwa tukitembea kotini. Kwa hivyo hata makanisani tumejaribu kuongelesha watu kwa majumuiya zetu, kwa makanisa zetu, na pia kwa nafasi pale mbele naeleza habari ya hii mambo ya GVV, ndio wale watu tunashiriki nao wanaenda kwa community, wanaeleza habari ya kupigana si mzuri, habari ya kudhulumiana si mzuri. Tukiwa pale kwa community, mara nyingi tuko kwa hizo merry-go-round, tunaeleza wamama wenzetu kupigana si kuzuri, na vita si kitu kitafanya sisi tuendelee mbele. Sasa watu kwa community wameanza kujua vita si mzuri, na kila mara utapoteza wakati wako kwenda kotini, kila mara utapoteza wakati wako kwenda kutoa ushahidi kotini. Sasa hizo vitu zinafanya kesi zinapungua.
Sasa zinapungua kwa sababu watu hawataki kupelekwa kotini.
Si ati sababu watu hataki kupelekwa kotini, sababu ya muda wao hawataki wapoteze kwa hizo makesi, kupigana, kutukanana, hizo pia ni dhuluma. Na watu wameona hizo si vitu za kawaida, si vitu mzuri tukiendelea na hizo vitu kama vita. Yani community kae salama.
Kwa
moja, nasema kwa wiki tulikuwa tunachukua kesi karibu 4, na kwa sasa hata saa zingine hakuna kesi. Hazikui sababu tunaona tunafunza mafunzo yani watu wanaielewa. Watu wanaelewa hizi vitu hazifai kwa community yetu.
Nikuulize, unatafsiri vipi GBV ukiongea na watu kwa community? Unawaambia GBV ni nini? GBV
tunawaambia GBV ni tuseme lugha zetu pale ni kupigana. Kupigana inaletwa na nini? Sababu ya vita, sababu ya watu kupigana pale labda mtu hana kazi, mke hana kazi, mume hana kazi, hiyo nyumba haiwezi kadika. Sababu huyu anahitaji. Matokeo itakuwa nini pale kwa nyumba? Wewe hujafanya. Ikiwa sasa tukileta hizo vitu, wakileta pamoja, inaanza kuwa kama ugombi. Ugombi ikikuwa inakuwa nini? Inakuwa vita. Vita ikikuwa inakuwa nini? Hospitali. Hospitali inakuwa nini? Polisi. Polisi inakuwa nini? Kotini. Vitu kama hizo vitu zinatakiwa tu zinaanzia pale kwa nyumba.
Na sasa ukiwaambia ndio waache hapo, waache ugomvi kwa nyumba, ndio wasielekee kupigana kwa nyumba, ndio wasiende kwa hizo vitu zote mpaka kotini. Unafikiri wanaacha kwa nini? Wanaacha kwa sababu
nimewaambia.
Umewaambia?
Si wawachi sababu nimewaambia kila mtu anajituma mwenyewe. Tunasemaga anajituma. Kama ulikuwa ufanye kazi, unajaribu kufanya, unaambia mama chukua hata njugu karanga enda uuze. Mzee enda mjengo. Hizi maneno zote hazitakuwa kwa nyumba. Sababu sasa kila mtu ako na shughuli, wewe uko na shughuli, jioni mnakuja, mnapata kaunga, mnakula, mnalala, kesho mnaamkia kazi zingine. Mnaenda hivyo, maisha inaendelea na vita zinapungua. Si ati naambiaga msipigane, ni mpaka mtu ajitume kwa kazi.
Pacifica.
Of course, I would want to say we have played a role in reducing the cases. Of course, they are still there, but we have played a role because people have realized that it has become a community responsibility. Because initially, people would engage in gender-based violence in the community and nobody is bothering. It was like it is a chief's responsibility. It was like it is the police responsibility. But when they realize that there are people within the community that are taking a responsibility, that they're coming in to respond and taking an initiative to ensure that they're reducing these cases, to ensure that they're creating awareness and sensitization within the community, then they realize that, yes, this is something that we as a community need to fight together. We need to unite together and raise awareness, and so that we reduce these cases. So that has played a role in bringing down the cases. It has become a responsibility for the community. And like my colleague has mentioned, you realize when these cases come up, it is the community who are now calling you. And like in the past, they would watch and nobody is taking action. But nowadays, we get calls from within the community. They will raise alarm and tell you, no, this cannot go on. So that tells you there's that community consciousness on the need to reduce the cases, to end gender-based violence within our communities. So that has really helped. But we are not saying it is over. We still need to continue going further to raise a lot of awareness. We still need, because in the past, when we started this, most of the people did not even know that if you're violated, how you can go about cases. We've done a lot of work to give the knowledge to our people on when you're violated, what is it you need to do. Some people used to keep quiet. When you tell them about, yes, you have the right, the Constitution covers you, you have a right to report and you can get justice. Many people would say, Mimi, see, I did not know. I did not know that if somebody does this to me, if somebody abuses me, that I can go to the courts and get justice. I did not know that if somebody, for the women, somebody would say, even I did not know that if my husband wants to go to bed to me, wants to have sex with me, I have to give him a consent. They did not know. So some of these things people are getting to know, and when they know, they become ambassadors. The good thing is that the community itself is also that we have gotten a lot of ambassadors within the community. Even some of the survivors that we have rescued are become ambassadors within the community, which is really positive and encouraging.
Wow.
Yeah.
Kenya's biggest conversation today is marking 16 days of activism, addressing injustices against women and girls in our communities. We're joined by two ladies. Mary Njoki is a GROOTS Kenya Nairobi coordinator and a GBV responder with GROOTS Kenya, and Pacifica Ongecha, GROOTS Kenya Kiambu coordinator. You're also saying national coordinator as well as Kiambu coordinator and a GBV responder. No.
So, I mean, it's interesting, Pacific, because you talk about groups as champions and people in the community having worked to relieve a lot of the pressure that we see that comes from gender-based violence, right? Which agencies do you work with? Because obvious that this work that's so heavy cannot be done by just groups in the community. So who are we looking at here that you work with that has seen the results that have been achieved over the years and that you hope to work with into the future?
Thank you. GBV, I would mention, is not something that you can do alone. And as an organization, anytime we are starting anything, we normally bring all the concerned stakeholders on board so that we kick off together. So when we started the program about GBV, we brought the necessary stakeholders that range from the chiefs, the Nyumba Kumi elders, the police, the health sector, the judiciary, the children's office, the youth office, the elders, the church elders, the cultural elders. We brought them all on board and we had a conversation just to agree on how best we can work and network. So we had a conversation on everyone's position and how well we can work. So as we started this work, we are on the same page and we have continually worked together. And it has really helped us because as a responder who is a volunteer and I rescue somebody and I go to the police today and maybe the police starts taking me round and round, I will get demoralized.
Yes.
And I can lose hope and let go. But because of the working relationship and the coordination we have as a GROOTS Kenya champion, when I go to a police station today, the police officer sees me there, she knows this is a responder, and I will be asked, Pacifica, how can we help you? Because most of the time we go there because we are going there to help people who have been, we are people, as the survivors, we've gotten on our ground. So we have collaborated well. We have networked with the health people. Today, if I go to Kiambu Hospital, if I go to Tigoni Hospital, which is in my area in Limuru, I live in Limuru. If I walk to Tigoni Hospital, I will get the clinical officer there who is in charge of GBV in our gender-based working technical working group. They will offer me assistance. They will help the person. If there are P3s that need to be filled, they will help. So that collaboration has really helped us to advance the GBV issues within our community. And we work hand in hand. Anytime I call, and because we are normally called even at night, anytime I make a call and I want to record this here on studio, anytime I call the OCS Limuru, even if it's at midnight and past midnight, my phone does not ring twice because they know I don't call them at midnight to give them stories. I call them because I have a distress call most of the time.
What are some of these calls? And I think both of you here, what is the nature? Because I think it is important. What is the nature of some of these calls that come? Because obviously it's something that is rampant. When somebody calls with a complaint and says, look, Pacifica, Mary, I'm in trouble, what has normally happened at that point?
What's the most prevalent form of GBV
of violence that we are seeing?
Okay, most of the time, sometimes you're called, a woman has been battered by the husband, mostly at night. Mostly at night. You're called when a woman has been beaten, she has been battered by the husband. You need to go and rescue her from her house. Sometimes you're called that the children who have been defiled, you need to go and rescue them. Yeah, mostly those are the cases. Sometimes you're called that the children who have been who have gone through female genital mutilation. Yes. Yeah. In Kiambu, yes.
Are there many cases of rape?
Yes, there's so many.
Of adult rape?
Adult rape.
Not children.
Defilement. Yes. There are cases of rape also. Yes. But it ranges on the timing. Mostly at night.
Night will be physical violence at home.
Domestic violence at night. Yes.
Okay.
But it ranges, yeah.
Is it the same in Nairobi?
Hata Nairobi tuko tu ni kama kitu moja. Ni kitu moja tu yote. Yote inafanyika tu ni the same zote. Sababu vita ikitokea vile mwenzangu anasema watu wa kwanza kurescue pale ni watoto. Maana hatujui baba kama anaweza chukua panga aanze kukatakata watoto. Kitu ya kwanza ukifika na ufiki peke yako, ondoeni watoto. Hiyo ndio kitu ya kwanza. Kitu ya pili ni umeuliza mambo ya rape ni mingi. Imeongezeka na tuna rekodi zetu iko pale NSF. Pale ambulance zetu ziko, maana hiyo usiku ikifanyika, hiyo ndio kitu ya kwanza tunaita hiyo gari. Nao ndio wanatusaidia. Hata tuwe wapi, hata tuwe pale ndani kabisa, bora tu umewapigia simu, gari inafika hapo mara moja. Na saa hizo tunakuwa tushapiga police station. Kuna kitu imefanyika mahali fulani, tafadhali tusaidieni na ofisa wafike wapi? Wafike hapa, maana hapa kuna giza, ni mahali kuna giza pale. Kuna giza na hatuwezi toka na huyu mama peke yetu. Manake hatujui huyu mtu amesaraundiwa na watu wagani, labda ni watu majambazi, hatujui kama ni watu wanaweza kutudhuru sisi wenyewe. Manake pia maisha yetu inakuwaga kwa hatari saa hizo usiku. Unajua mchana unaona kila mtu, lakini usiku uoni, kumejaa giza pale kwetu, vijiji zetu nyingi ziko na giza. Na nashukuru OCS Muthaiga wale askari wako round wanafikaga hapo mara moja. Manake kitu ya kwanza upigie askari, unapigia mkubwa wao OCS. OCS wanaamurisha, wanafika pale pia wanatusaidia kushika. Kama huyo jamaa kwa hapo anashikwa, naenda police station. Akitoka police station sisi tunaenda hospitali. Tukitoka hospitali tunaingia police station na tunaandikisha ripoti. Kazi yetu inakuwaga hiyo sana usiku.
Kwa hivyo uhusiano baina ya community na polisi na hospitali ama vituo vya afya uko juu. Uhusiano uko juu sababu
community
inafurahia kazi ambayo polisi wanafanya.
Sisi tunafurahia kazi ile polisi anafanya, sababu ukipiga simu mara moja wanaingia hapo. Maana kazi ya rape si kazi rahisi vile. Si kazi rahisi hivyo. Ni mpaka tuhusishe watu wote. Na unajua sasa hizo labda ni usiku, unahusisha serikali ni huyo OCS anatupatia maaskari. Tunakuja, huyo mama anarescue, tunapeleka hospitali. Huyu mtu ameshikwa labda ako pale kwa nyumba, akishikwa sasa sisi tunaendelea na kesi tukiandikisha statement.
So Esther umesema rescue. Ukirescue
Mara nyingi
watoto unawapeleka wapi?
Mara nyingi ni usiku na tuna center pale kwetu, hatuna mahali pa kuwaweka. Wewe mwenye kufika hapo unawachukua unawapeleka kwa nyumba yako. Labda kitu imefanyika pale chini na huko upande wa juu, kitu ya kwanza wapeleke kwangu. Watakuwa safe. Labda watoto wajakula, korogeni uji, wapatieni watoto chakula, sisi tukiendelea kusaidia mama. Sana sisi ndio tunadesti watoto. Asubuhi yake ikifika ndio tunajua tutatafuta shelter wapi. Maana ukikaa pale hatujui huyu mtu kama ako na watu wake wanaweza kukufuata hata mchana na wadhuru wale watoto.
So does groups have plans for establishment of rescue centers?
Yes, thank you. Like my colleague has mentioned, we normally look for the fast and quickest, safest way to first of all help these victims. Like she has mentioned, sometimes the quickest would be first of all to keep these people in your house. We have had instances of them being kept in our houses. But at the moment, GROOTS Kenya has safe houses. We have one in Kiambu. We have another one in Tana River. And we have one in Kakamega. And these safe houses are for women. Of course, if a woman comes in with their children, we will keep them there with their children. But we don't keep children without their parents. We don't have the consent because children under 18 have to be kept in a children's center. So what we normally do, like she has mentioned, we will keep them in our house, but we have to inform the administration. The chief has to be aware that you have children you have kept in your house for safe custody for an overnight stay as you plan on a way forward the next day. So then the next day you will work with the children's office to ensure that these children are now forwarded into a children's center for safe custody. That is how we work. And that is why the collaboration really helps us. But for an overnight stay, they can stay in your house, but with the consent of administration.
For every time we commemorate the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence, every year we talk about some form of reduction, we talk about elimination, we talk about support increasing and things like that. Have we seen that there has been a definite reduction in the cases of this kind of violence? Speak for your areas. Has there been a reduction over time? And can we look and say, well, the practitioners in this space have said to have a complete elimination would be very difficult. But if we see a reduction because of the work that's doing that, the perpetrators are now saying, well, okay, well, we will hold this back. What are we seeing has been the case?
I would say from where I sit, there has been a reduction because sometime even last year into the other years I've been doing this because I've been practicing gender-based violence for the last more than 15 years. I used to leave my house almost daily to attend to cases. Every night I would be called for several cases. In the last few months I've not left my house to attend to GBV cases. That indicates there is a reduction. Our shelter in Limuru, in Kiambu, has not had people coming in. And it is open anytime for anybody who feels insecure. If we feel this person is insecure, we bring them in. We've not had any admission.
And how long?
For the last few months, say about 4 months. That tells you that, that is a reduction. Because there are times we used to have people flowing in every other day. So that is an indication, from me, an indicator of some slight reduction. Of course, even the references from other institutions. Because some of the cases we used to take in were also references from other institutions. Because when their shelters are also overflowing, they would refer to our institution. So we have not been having these references. So it is not only about GROOTS. If other institutions are also having the overflow, they would be referring them to us. So I'm taking it as a general perspective of as a reduction in gender-based violence.
What would you attribute this to?
I would, like I mentioned, I think I mentioned this, that I would attribute to the call by everybody and the involvement of community as a community responsibility for all of us to engage in acting upon gender-based violence. We have taken it as a community responsibility. Unlike in the past, when people used to say, the police, where is police? They would see people watch GBV happening under their watch.
Absolutely.
But nowadays, anything happening, you will find people taking up action. Like for me, I want to tell you this. If I am called here, even when I'm in the media, somebody calls me now that I receive a distress call, unfortunately, I'll just have to leave because it is a call within me.
Emergency.
It is an emergency. And that is how the community is now reacting. They will call, they will react. Yeah. Initially, they would say, let them fight. That is their own business. But today, yes, wacha kuingilia. These are family matters. But nowadays, everybody will come up in their arms and say, no, we cannot allow this to go on. You find even some of the plots, people will say, if you bring any fight within this plot, then you no longer need to live here. So that tells you community have taken it up on themselves.
Let me ask both of you, have you ever responded to cases of gender-based violence where the man is the victim?
Yes, we have. Yes. I have personally.
Okay.
Yes.
In what kind of instances? You can just give us examples without obviously getting into the details.
I responded to a gender-based violence case of a man who had been violated by the wife. The wife had taken up all their property, the land title deed, taken off with it. And of course, property for us, we know that property you have attained together is property for both of you. When you're disposing of it, you have to agree. So this lady had taken the title deed and ran off from this man. We took up the case and went to the DCC. We stopped any process of anything that this lady would want to do. We put a caution on this land. On anything that this lady may be wanting to do against it. So the man felt comfortable because, he was in a dilemma and was very happy that women can come in and protect him, because for us, we fight for justice for whatever gender. So we protected him, and at long last, he got his title back.
Okay.
So he felt really really taken care of.
Assisted.
Yeah, because he didn't expect that the women, but for us as an organization, we don't discriminate when it comes to gender justice.
Okay.
And we also had a case of a man who had been beaten by the wife. Then we took it up. Unfortunately, for this one, the man later on forgave the wife. But we had taken it up, and we were ready to go to court. Because for us, we normally pursue the cases. But unfortunately, for gender-based violence, without the complainant,
the case drops.
You cannot take it further.
So what?
Mary, have you done the same?
Niko na kesi kama ya mwenzangu. Kuna mzee mmoja. Huyo mzee siwezi kumtaja jina, lakini mke alikuwa ametoroka kama miaka 10. Na mzee tukamsaidia mahali, tukamjengea kama community. Mahali pa kukaa. Hakuwa na mahali pa kukaa. Lakini wakati mke alirudi, akaanza kufuatilia kale ka sehemu tulijengea mzee, na akauza. Akachukua mzee akamweka sehemu nyingine, sehemu hata mzee wakati alirudi kwetu akatuambia huko hata ajui ni wapi. Haya, baada ya kukaa huyu mzee akakaa huko akawa hana makao sasa. Mimi mwenyewe unajua mzee mwenyewe sasa mimi ndio nafuatilia kesi zake. Nikafuata kesi mpaka kwa chief, kwa dio, mzee akarekezewa pale mwanamke aliuza na kaenda. Mzee akabaki, kwanza alikuwa analala kwa hizi vibanda. Tukaonelea hivyo si vizuri kama community. Mimi nikaongoza watu wa community, tukaenda mpaka kwa chief, tukatoka kwa chief tukaenda kwa dio, na mzee baadaye sasa amerudi mahali pake, na ninashukuru. Maana kama singekuwa huyu mzee sasa angepotelea tu ama afe. Manake sisi kazi yetu ni mingi kwa community. Sisi bado tunafanya kazi ya community health volunteer, tunafanya hizo zote tunafanya. Kama hatukufanya hivyo, huyo mzee tungempote. Sasa naishi mahali pake na tunafurahia kama community. Tukimuona akitembea na akivaa na akioga. Yes.
It's interesting because you talk about community, Pacifica, and now when we talk about the perpetrators being then brought to justice, right? Or at least so if there's a case, it goes to the police usually goes to court, etc., etc. But the interesting thing with GBV is that you may have repeat offenders, but it's also possible that a new case is a new offender, right? But if we are seeing it reducing, then one must ask the question, are the perpetrators then known to the survivors? Are they people that you know in the community, this person is the one who did this to this person? Because I asked the question, you say that unless the one who is violated brings the case, it would not be heard. In the case of children, if the perpetrator is known, are the parents likely to come out and say, we are seeking for justice because of what was done to our child? Mm-hmm. Is it people that are known in the community who then are committing these crimes?
Yes, I want to agree that most of the cases that we have within our communities turn out to be people who are known. Mm-hmm. And like you've mentioned, sometimes you realize, mostly when there are cases that are for children, you find that the parents are compromised to do kangaroo courts and let the cases go. But our role, because we know that children may not have much to say in their own cases, but children are property of the government. Our role as champions is to ensure that the children get justice. And anytime we realize that there are cases going on for children and parents are coming in to negotiate otherwise, so that the children don't get justice, we will ensure that we follow up and let the children get justice. In fact, we will tell the parents, if they play around, they will also be in shit, because they're the ones denying the children the justice. We've had cases even of defilement of children. Then along the way, you realize that the children, I have a case that I was presented to the other day, I'm following it up in Limuru, of a child who has been defiled, but the parents are trying to negotiate with the perpetrator, so that they can be paid some money. And the case cannot see the light of the day. I'm following it up. And normally when we follow up, you realize these cases are followed up, are going on. But most of the time you get to learn some of these cases when the parents have already negotiated and been given money. But we as champions, we cannot allow that, because you're denying an innocent child their justice. But for us, we normally follow up. We have a case in Larry of a child who was defiled badly, which we are also following up. And we've been following up. Of course, we have a delay with the justice system. We've been following up this case since 2021. Yeah. And this case involved, because it was rescued by our champions in Githunguri. They had gone to hospital in Kiambu. They came across this case. Then they handed over to the champions, because that is how we work. They handed over to the champions in Larry, because it is within their jurisdiction. Then by coincidence, the court is in Limuru, and by virtue of being the lead champion. So we are all of us following this case to ensure that this girl gets justice. So that is how we work. We follow up to ensure justice. For anybody above 18, they have their own decision to make. If they decide they don't want to follow up, then we don't have much we can do. But for the children cases, we follow up to ensure that nobody compromises for the child to lose out on their cases.
Inevitably, this brings conflict.
Yes.
Between the champions and the parents.
Yes.
And then that also brings in pressure to the child, because the child is still living under the care of the parents who do not want this case to proceed. And yet there's a champion somewhere who's still pushing for this case to proceed. How do you handle this emerging conflict?
What we normally do, like we have a case in scenario in Juja, where normally, of course, the child had been perpetrated by the stepfather. She had been defiled by the stepfather. So the mother was being compromised by the relatives of the stepfather, so that they can negotiate to have the case winded up. But when we came in, we sat down the mother and made her understand that this man has just come into your life. This is your own blood. This child is your own blood. If you don't pursue, you will get back to the same house and he will keep doing this. So we normally don't come in with force. We sit them down. We took this lady through a session of counseling to make her understand. We don't come in with force, actually. We sit them down to make them understand the integrities of ensuring that this child gets justice. Yeah? You will be given, we make them understand, you'll be given little money, but you'll have denied your child a lifetime justice that will make her, in future, if she gets to learn that it is you who denied her the justice, she will hate you forever. So we have had taken them, we've taken them through, and they come to understand. And at the end of the day, we are on the same page. So we normally don't go in with force. No,
Yeah.
we make them we go through a process of making them understand. We bring in even a psychologist to make them understand a process. It is a process that we go through. Of course, the people that we normally don't agree much. Sometimes you realize it is the police who are coming in. Some of them, not all of them are good people. Some of them are the ones who come in to negotiate on behalf, so that they're also making a kill. But for us, we make them understand that no, it is not the right thing to do for your child. And at the end of the day, most of them will always agree with us.
As we wind up,
Yep.
somebody who's watching this interview or listening, and they'd like to be part of your champions or to join your organization or to support you in any way, how do they get in touch with you?
Of course, when they want to support us, GROOTS Kenya, like we said, is an organization that depends on donor funding, on support from well-wishers, because we don't we do this out of goodwill. Like I said, we are volunteers, but of course we have a secretariat in Westlands. But for us at the grassroots level, we volunteer. We are not paid, but the secretariat looks for funds to ensure that we have the logistics, because all this work we are doing, like having the shelter, like meetings with the other partners, with enabling those meetings so that we are talking and working together, is enabled by the funds that we get from the various partners we work with. So we always call for any partner that wants to work with us. We are always available. And we will always take in any support, because the support that we get will enable that we reach out to many more people, do a lot of sensitization that will reach out to many communities. So we are calling for people to unite together. Let us invest in grassroots organizations, because they are the pillar of all this work in our grassroots level. They are better placed to do gender-based violence and response, because that is where it is happening most. Thank you so much.
Pacifica Ongecha, GROOTS Kenya National and Kiambu Coordinator, and Mary Njoki, GROOTS Kenya Nairobi Coordinator. They've been our guests. Thank you very much for joining us, ladies.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.